Canterbury Tales, a group of travellers takes a pilgrimage to Canterbury. A game is devised which requires all of them to tell 4 tales. One character, the miller, tells quite an interesting story that makes fun of a carpenter. In his story, the carpenter is made a fool since his wife goes behind his back to sleep with a younger, more pleasurable man. In short, a student, Nicholas, tricks the old curmudgeon into thinking a great flood is on the way from heaven. Then, at nightfall, as the carpenter slumbers, the deed is done between Nicholas and Allison, the carpenter's wife. In the meantime, Absalom, another one of Allison's suitors, comes to Allison's window, seeking a sweet kiss. After receiving an unsatisfying buttocks instead of lips, Absalom returns, supposedly in search of another kiss. Yet, this time, he brings a branding iron to repay Allison. Blimey, right? Nicholas, thinking that it would be a grand joke to present his own romp, is quite shocked to meet a red-hot iron upon his tushy. Overcome by intense pain, Nicholas yelps for water, as any other lad would do. Thank you. Hearing the cry of water, the good old carpenter— now you didn't forget about him, did you? Yes. The dear carpenter wakes in panic, thinking that the flood is upon its way. In his confusion, the carpenter ends up hurting himself. Through all of this melee, Allison and Nicholas convince the town that the carpenter has gone mad. And, since the Reeve is a carpenter, the tale infuriates him. Now, children, it is important to note that the miller and the Reeve don't get along. The Reeve knows that the miller was trying to make a fool out of him, so, for payback, the Reeve creates an equally comical tale about the miller.
As aforementioned, Oswald the Reeve is not amused by the miller's tale. So goes the prologue.
I'd get even with a tale that makes millers look just as bad, but I'm too old for this nonsense.
Well, you're going to sit here and tell us how old you are all day. Just tell us your story already.
I mean no offense to anyone except this drunken miller, of course, since I need to make it clear that the real fool is this hater. This is my revenge, since he can apparently see my faults, but not his own.
And so the tale begins. At a watermill worked a proud and skilled miller. He toted a great deal of deadly weapons. No one dared bother him due to his intimidating presence, for it looked as if he could kill someone in at least 6 different ways.
Actually, it's 7.
Yes, he was also a corn thief called Haughty Simon Simpkin. He married a parson's daughter, a pretty little virgin from the nunnery, because he wanted to keep his good yeoman reputation. No one dared flirt with her or call her anything but madam, because the miller was a jealous pig who would make good use of his many weapons on anyone who even winked at the girl. The two had a baby who was 6 months old and a 20-year-old daughter who was a bountiful bosom and who also packed much back. The miller particularly liked to steal corn from the great Cambridge College Solar Hall. 2 headstrong and lusty students, John and Alan, lived in Solar Hall and volunteered to go to the mill to ensure that the miller did not steal from their corn while the manciple was dying of some mysterious disease. Could it be the plague? John and Alan rode to the mill with the corn on their valiant steed.
Simon, how are your lovely daughter and wife?
Welcome. What brings you here?
Need brings us. Our manciple is sick and probably stone cold dead by now, so Alan and I are here to grind our corn and take it back.
I'll send you quickly on your way. What will you two be doing while I grind the corn?
I'll stand right by the hopper. I've never seen how the corn goes in. And I'll stand beneath the hopper to watch the corn fall into the trough. We're two of a kind. Neither are experienced in milling.
These students think they're being oh so clever. But even though they're scholars, they aren't wise. I don't give a dime about their education.
The miller snuck out and released the students' horses and let it run to the fen full of wild mares, otherwise known as lady horses. When they went to leave, John discovered that their horse was missing. The miller's wife admitted that the wonton horse had escaped to the fen. And so, while the students were off catching the horse, the miller stole half a bushel of corn in hopes that the wife would make a cake. The miller chuckled.
A miller can trick a student no matter how smart. Look at them run. They definitely won't be catching it early.
At nightfall, the students finally caught the horse in a ditch.
He stole our corn. We'll be called fools by the warden and our friends, but mainly by this miller. Curses!
The two asked the miller for shelter overnight.
If there's room, you can stay. But my house is small.
They all ate and drank until they went to bed at midnight. The students were staying in a bed in the family's bedroom. The crib sat at the end of the miller's bed, and the daughter had her own bed, all in the same room. The drunken snoring of the miller and his wife kept Alan awake.
John! What? How are you asleep? I've never heard such a sound. I won't get any rest. But that's okay, because you know what? I'll screw his hot daughter. He stole our corn, so I need to be repaid somehow. At least there's an action by which I'll get some satisfaction, if you know what I mean. Now, Alan, the miller is dangerous. If he woke up, he may or may not slaughter us.
Alan disregarded John's warning and snuck up to the girl, woke her, and quickly seduced her. John gave himself a pep talk to take the risk afterwards.
Alan's now having some fun, and I would be a fool not to satisfy my needs. The cowardly's unlucky, so they say.
While the wife went out to pee, John mischievously moved the cradle to the foot of his bed in order to trick her into joining him. When the wife returned, she said,
Bless me, I almost got into the student's bed.
As you can see, the wife became confused and, looking for the bed with the cradle, she unexpectedly wound up in John's bed. John then proceeds to make love to her, and tale has it that he was way better than the miller ever was. In another nearby bed, as dawn approached, Alan said farewell to the daughter.
Dear lover, farewell. But wait, behind the door of the mill is a loaf made from the corn my father and I stole.
Making note of the loaf, Alan returns to the student's bed, which was actually the miller's, remember?
My head is dizzy from my busy, restless night. The miller and his wife are in bed over there by the cradle. Hey, John, wake up, you swinehead, and listen. I screwed his daughter 3 times while you've been laying here like a fraidy cat.
You rascal, I'll kill you! Who dares disgrace my daughter?
The miller grabs Alan by the throat. Alan gives the miller a bloody nose, and they wrestle on the ground. The miller got up and fell on the other bed on top of his wife.
Help, Simon! These students have fallen on me.
The wife rises and searches the room for a weapon.
Acha!
She sees a person moving in the dark and went to whack a student on the head with the staff but hits the miller instead. The student beats up the miller while he's down, takes their corn and cake, and leaves on their noble steed.
So the miller took a beating, lost his profits from the corn, lost money on the student's food, and his wife and daughter were screwed. What a fool!
Oh my gosh. What the heck did I just watch?
Is the narrator a chin?
Blimey, right.
Just staring at this chin this whole time just makes me really unsettled.
Okay.
I will tell you this thing. She has a good accent.
Are those coconuts?
We got puppet drawings. Oh, and coconuts. This is wonderful.
A poor horse. They riding unicorns?
That horse looks pretty happy for having its horn broke off.
I feel bad for that unicorn.
I like the little sax riff sound effects. Burner, burner.
It's good drawing though.
Please don't tell me he goes back to the chin. I beg of you, don't go back to that chin. Alright, thank God.
That's just sad. Just plain sad.
Like a bag of corn.
Their eyes aren't even closed.
John!
They're sleeping with their eyes open.
Oh my God. Oh, okay.
Proceeds to make love to her.
Whoa! No, she did not.
Ever was.
Alan. Alan's going down a road he does not want to go down. Mm-mm.
A bloody
Get him,
nose,
get him,
and
get
they
him,
wrestle
get him.
on the ground.
Corn, corn, corn. There's a lot of corn in the theme of the story.
Miller, while he's down,
Poor
takes
Miller.
their corn.
Root beer.
Then, at nightfall, in the meantime,
Great job.
hearing the cry of water, the
They don't have a root beer.
Until they went to bed at midnight.
Wow. That was
Okay.
something.
That's pretty cool.
You had to read that for class. So, what was your overall opinion?
Oh my god.
That was something. That was definitely something. Okay.
You did a great job. I like most of the scripting. Most of the scripting's pretty good. I liked whoever did the stick figures. The chin I thought that was a bit out there. It disturbed me a little bit, but that's okay. That thing if you have to take a test but you never read the book, this is what you watch. It gives you a good synopsis.
I like the artwork, definitely. And the creativity definitely is there. The story was harsh and funny and sad, but all good.
Out of the two stories, who do you think was the biggest fool?
Well, I feel like Miller, because he just got into all sorts of trouble. It wasn't even his fault, but he was a jerk and stole corn, so I guess he deserved it.
I guess the Miller, because he did bring two guys in the house. But I gotta say, I kind of feel bad for him, because he did bring people in his house. They welcome home, and they literally took advantage of him. So I kind of feel bad.
The Millers. Definitely the Millers. Do you think this story is school appropriate?
No.
No. No.
For high schoolers, most profane slang goes around, so I feel like it's appropriate for a older audience, nothing below 10th grade. Yeah.
Awesomeness.
So I'd say 2 thumbs up. Good job.
I loved your acting.
Thank you.